The Atlanta Falcons have traded for the missing piece. Matthew Judon has been traded to the Atlanta Falcons for a 2025 third-round selection. Judon, one of the premier edge rushers in the NFL during 2021 and 2022 after getting hurt in 2023, was in a bit of a contract dispute with the Patriots, a team that he found his way to in the Bill Belichick end of the Bill Belichick tenure. Right after Tom Brady left, he signed a big contract from the Ravens going to the Patriots. And as a Patriots fan myself, honestly, Matt Judon was the best football player on the New England Patriots during 2021 and 2022. So it's a sad departure to see one of the game's best at his position leave to a new team. But in this video and in this live stream here live on Bleacher Report, I'm going to explain why it's a win for both sides and why I personally think this changes and alters Atlanta's season in 2024, and why I believe this is actually maybe a good thing for the Patriots' future. So, before I begin, if you're on YouTube, Gronk spike the like button. And if you're live on Bleacher Report, let me know your thoughts here in the chat. I will be getting to the chat to answer any of your questions about what you guys think, okay? So first, the Falcons needed an edge rusher. It wasn't that long ago that I was on here live discussing, could they go trade for Hassan Reddick? Judon has been one of those players that has been circulating in potential trade possibilities all offseason. And it's due to his age. He's 31 going on 32, right? This season, he's going to be 32 years old. He's coming off an injured campaign in 2023 where he only played 9 games, I believe, or he only played 4 games. Not even 9. He played 4 games in 2023. But the last 3 years, highly productive, even productive in Baltimore. And he's kind of one of those players that he's going through the last ride of his career, the fourth quarter of his career. And he needs to go somewhere where he's going to win. And the Patriots currently in their timeline, they weren't going to be winning anything in 2024. They weren't going to be winning a thing in 2024 with or without Matthew Judon. So as much as it pains me to see this player who's been in a very dark time to be a Pats fan and a member of Pats Nation, probably the bright star and the most energetic, fun player to watch on a weekly basis. Now that he's gone to Atlanta with his red sleeves intact, he gets to keep the red sleeves because now he's going from the navy blue and the red to the black and the red. He's still going to keep those red sleeves. He's still going to have the sweetest celebration in football, sacking quarterbacks across the NFL. But really, this changes the Falcons. I've been saying the Falcons need an edge rusher. They had arguably the worst edge rush position in general in the NFL before this trade. It was at least in the conversation alongside probably like Arizona. It was right there with the bottom tier of defenses in terms of rushing the quarterback. And now they get somebody that is a certified double-digit sack artist and a guy that can change a game with one pass rush, a guy that can get you off the field on third down, a guy that can provide a strip sack, a guy that plays with an incredibly high IQ for a football player who's going to bring veteran savvy, who's going to bring leadership. Those are two things that were off the charts during his Patriot days. Just looking at his career, right, began as a late round draft pick for the Baltimore Ravens in 2016, worked into the rotation more heavily in 2017, had an 8-sack season in 2017 as a 25-year-old, then 7 sacks, 9.5 sacks, 6 sacks in 2020. He was a Pro Bowler in 2019 and 2020 before making his way to New England, where he was for 4 years in a row, 2 in Baltimore, 2 in New England, 4 straight Pro Bowls. In New England, his game elevated to new heights 12.5 sacks in 2021, 15.5 sacks in 2022. His quarterback hit numbers also went up. And I would say his peak season of his career was when he was voted in the top 10 for Defensive Player of the Year votes. He was voted number 9 in 2022. 60 tackles in that year, 15.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, even on a pretty bad team, but a good defense. And Judon, what I love about his game is he's deceptively athletic, I would say. He's got great length to the edge position where he utilizes his length, his arms, and his reach to be able to get to quarterbacks. And that's why I think he's so good at sacking quarterbacks, because he is able to track them down. He's got quick pursuit speed, the ability to get around the corner and then pursue the quarterback with the best of them. He's really good on the edge of, getting in the backfield and creating big plays, negative plays for his defense, and just plays with an incredibly high football IQ. He can work in tandem with other rushers to get them free for sacks. He's really good with that. I think he'll really succeed in Raheem Morris's scheme. Raheem Morris, lately with the Rams, hasn't really had great edge rushers. He's primarily had very good interior rushers. He did have a brief stint there with Von Miller. Leonard Floyd was productive, but I think Judon is a much better pass rusher than Leonard Floyd in terms of just the overall pass rushing ability and the ability to put together some moves and, come back with power, come back with finesse, be able to put together a full skill set at that position. So I just feel like this is the player that the Falcons have been missing, because before this trade, I wasn't really high on the Falcons. I wasn't really saying they were going to make the playoffs or win their division, because I just simply was not sold on their pass rush. It really came down to their pass rush and maybe a couple players in the secondary I'm not really sold on, specifically their number 2 and number 3 cornerbacks. But now that I look at their team, I think they do have the best offense in the division. I think that they have potentially a breakout at wide receiver, tight end, and running back this year with Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, and Drake London, being that Kirk Cousins is the best quarterback that they've ever had by a wide margin. Even returning from an Achilles, I believe that to be the case. They have a strong offensive line. They should be able to run the ball. Zach Robinson's going to be bringing a new, fresh scheme to the table, that Sean McVay type approach. And I think the offense is going to be flirting with the top 10. They're going to have a lot of balance. I think their play action is going to be very strong. Don't forget about Darnell Mooney and how he can attack defenses down the field and how that's going to stretch defenses out. And then, of course, you've got the defense where you do have big-time stars in the back end like Jesse Bates and A.J. Terrell. I think underrated linebackers as well. And, the interior D-line is not bad. Like David Onyemata, Grady Jarrett back and healthy, a little bit older at that position, but still very solid. Now you can maybe rotate in other players, like Lorenzo Carter does not have to play as big of a snap share as he did previously. Arnold Ebiketie could maybe take a little bit more of a pass rushing specific role and play a little bit lesser. And now Judon even can come in and be that every down workhorse of the defensive line and of the edge rush. Assuming they pay him, everything should be fine. They, in New England, obviously didn't want to pay a player that was going on 32 years old, that is still playing at a high level, so he justifies being paid, but it just didn't make sense for the Patriots. So in terms of the overall winners and losers here, again, I honestly feel like this winners and losers debate, they're both winners in my mind. And just to answer this question, or not a question, it's a comment. Best QB ever had, think Matty Ice takes that. Drake London never played with Matt Ryan as far as I'm concerned. So I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Bijan Robinson never played with Matt Ryan. So that's what I was referring to specifically. Just wanted to answer that because that was bugging me for a second there. But let's just start with the winners and losers. So first of all, Kirk Cousins is a winner. Kirk Cousins is a big winner, because it was very awkward at the draft when we learned that the Falcons were going to be selecting Michael Penix Jr. as a first-round pick at quarterback. And it didn't really match the timeline of this football team. The timeline of this football team adding, a 36, 37-year-old Kirk Cousins meant that they were probably likely to go for a NFC South title, I should say, and try to pursue a championship and try to do something this year and try to do something next year. And in the short window, try to be a contender in the NFC. And now this move is more in line with Kirk Cousins, the timeline of Kirk Cousins, of what we initially believed to be the case of what the Falcons are trying to accomplish right now, right? And the Michael Penix thing kind of threw a wrench into that discussion of using a high priority draft pick on a player that's not going to play, right? So Kirk Cousins, big winner for this because it's going to help him win games. Having a pass rusher, because before they didn't have anybody that on their track record suggested they could get 10 sacks in a season. That could be a Pro Bowler, right? There's nobody in that realm, right? Judon, it would have been better if you're getting Judon from like a year ago or 2 years ago where he's not coming off of an injury. But still, you look at last year when he played 4 games and had 4 sacks in those 4 games. And overall, he had 28 sacks in 2 seasons in New England. He should be able to seamlessly come into Atlanta and produce. And considering the way that the Falcons want to play, they probably want to be a run-heavy team driven by Bijan Robinson, play through play action, get a lead. Judon, somebody that can secure them the lead with pressure, and then having the guys on the back end like Jesse Bates, who's a ball hawk, to secure them interceptions and turnovers. I think that is a good philosophy, especially in a weaker division. Before I looked at Tampa and I was like, this team's more complete. This team is more proven. They've got more of a, proven defense, more veteran players that I trust, right? Todd Bowles is going to have a good defense. Baker, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. And I'm not saying the Bucs are out of that discussion in the NFC South, but I would say now with this move, the Falcons have upgraded their biggest weakness to such a degree that I think it does uplift them above the Bucs in my personal mind. The next winner I would suggest here is actually the young players, the young pass rushers in New England. So there are players like Keon White. There are players like Anthony Jennings. There are players like Josh Uche, who people across the NFL community and the media maybe even, or the chat right now, probably don't really know how good these players are. Josh Uche was a double-digit sack player a couple years ago, but he struggled to get on the field under Bill Belichick because of his lack of ability on first and second down against the run. But I think this only increases Josh Uche's role in 2024, and that also puts him in position to get a lot of sacks, a lot of work, and potentially a very big contract with the Patriots or somebody else in free agency next year. So Josh Uche is a massive winner for the work rate he's going to see this year. Anthony Jennings, very solid player, especially against the run, was one of the best edge rushers in football last year against the run. He's going to see a bigger role because of that. When Judon went down, Jennings was the biggest beneficiary of, the Patriots edge rushers. Keon White was a second-round pick last year who has only flashed extreme potential as an absolute monster. I think he can work his way across the defensive line. So they have 3 guys that I think are very capable of playing starting edge rush snaps. But I honestly feel like this does take the Patriots defense down a peg, especially considering that they might be also without Christian Barmore, right? New England did play a large majority of last year without Christian Gonzalez and Matt Judon. But I feel like without 2 of the workhorses, last year and just overall in their defensive line, Judon and Barmore, I feel like those 2 guys missing is definitely going to decline the Patriots defense just a little bit in my mind, especially now, Belichick's gone. Gerard Mayo, I trust to operate a sound defense, and they still got plenty of talent, especially in the secondary, but I just don't think they're going to be as dominant to the level of maybe you would have expected. That's also going to help the Patriots draft status in 2025. So the Patriots are probably going to have an opportunity here to be in the top 3 draft picks, which is really going to help their long-term future, securing another elite player for the Drake May Patriots in my mind. So I would be, at this point, with the way that the Patriots are going about this offseason, trading somebody like Matt Judon, who's 32 years old, who's a leader of the team, who's a leader in the locker room, who's a well-regarded player. Trading him indicates that the team doesn't believe they're going to do anything this year, which means that they're probably not going to be a very good team, which is ultimately going to probably bag the Patriots like a top left tackle next year or a top receiver next year or something on offense to help Drake May for the future. So their draft status certainly is a winner here. The loser would be the 2024 New England Patriots and that entire roster, including any of the veterans that exist on this team that are looking to win this year. So that's probably a loser. And Patriots fans overall, losers, just because they lost an exciting defensive player that has the sweetest sack celebration in the league. Winners are, I would say, Raheem Morris, because Raheem Morris, not only is he coming in with pressure of being a second-time head coach now, and usually second-time head coaches don't have a great track record of being successful. But now, given the opportunity he has in this division, the quarterback that they brought in to support him on offense, and the pieces he has on offense, now with a piece like Judon on defense, it gives him a lot more to work with here. Because before you were somewhat concerned about, would he have the pieces up front to be able to create a captivating pass rush? But now he potentially has enough with what he did with the Rams last year and that defense last year and all the kind of unknown of that defense. I certainly feel like in Atlanta now, there's enough proven entities up front and in the back end where he can make this a respectable level of defense. So to me, I think that's a big winner, Raheem Morris overall, and the defense and the defensive scheme. I think this is also going to help Grady Jarrett. I think this is also going to help David Onyemata. I think this is also going to help Arnold Ebiketie. Anybody else that is going to allow them to have single opportunities, one-on-one pass rushing opportunities on this defensive line. So that's going to help all the way across the board. Losers would be the entire NFC South. Another loser to me, the NFC South. Like, the Bucs are a huge loser because I've looked at the Bucs this entire offseason as a team that I feel is just being overall underrated. And I do think there have been improvements in Tampa. I think they've improved their offensive line. I think they've improved their receiving room. I think they've improved certain areas of their defense. But overall, when you think about, okay, now it's probably on average better quarterback than Baker Mayfield that's been added here, and a coaching staff that a lot of people are excited about. Now you add Judon to a defense that was kind of, actually pretty underrated in terms of run defense last year, pretty underrated in their overall metrics last year. They were just kind of somewhat a little fluky, but now you kind of give them another piece to that puzzle to make them even better. And it makes them more of a complete team. So you could pick holes in Atlanta before, but now the biggest weakness that they had on their roster is potentially solved if Judon plays at the level that he did in 2022 and 2021 and early in 2023. So the Bucs are a big loser. The Saints are a loser. The Saints are a huge loser because the Saints have just continuously been trying to keep this dream alive of what they lost in Drew Brees and Sean Payton. And they've just continuously been trying to push this narrative that they're in the window to win, but it's just not happening for them. It's just not happening ever. Derek Carr was signed to make this happen. It's not happening, right? They continuously go after veteran players like Tyrann Mathieu of the world, Chase Young's, they're just continuing to try to find these veteran pieces to their team, and it's just not working. So the Saints, absolutely a loser. The Panthers, not as much because nobody really expects the Panthers to do anything. So it's not I guess Bryce Young's a loser because he has to deal with Matt Judon running after him. But overall, the Panthers are not really a loser because nobody really expects anything from the Panthers. But the Saints and the Bucs are certainly a loser. As Dre Jungle says, he caught hell when Hellerns and Trice went down. As soon as I saw Trice went down, I was like, okay, they got to make a move because this is the guy they drafted they thought was going to be productive in their pass rushing, and they at least got to sign a free agent of some sort, right? So as soon as Trice went out, I was like, they've got to do something, and that kind of opened the opportunity for maybe Hassan Reddick because he was like, I want to be traded from the Jets already. So Hassan Reddick was an opportunity, and then you've got Judon now. So yeah, I mean, those are the top winners and losers that come to my mind. Overall, I think that maybe a loser you could categorize in here is Jacoby Brissett. If you're trying to pick one guy that this directly affects in terms of the hope for him this year, Jacoby Brissett. If you're Jacoby Brissett, this certainly doesn't help you win any games this year. And if you're trying to make your name for yourself as a starter this year, it certainly does not help you by losing probably the leader of your defense and the biggest name on your defense. I still think the Patriots defense is going to be very capable, very good. I just feel like it loses that upside, especially with Barmore out. But yeah, I'm really excited for the Falcons now. Again, guys, I've been kind of preaching throughout this entire video. Like, I kind of feel like all offseason, I haven't been able to buy in. I haven't been all the way in. I've kind of been 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I've been like, I kind of like the offense. I like the vision for it. I understand what the idea is here. But at the same time, you've got Kirk Cousins coming off an Achilles injury. That's not ideal. And you've got a defense that probably overperformed last year. I thought Ryan Nielsen did a phenomenal job, so it's not like they really upgraded with their coaching. I really like Ryan Nielsen, right? And then, so the defense was kind of holding me back from buying in. But now I think this potentially adds another new playoff team for 2024, in my opinion, as long as Judon is healthy. And when you look at his consistency of staying healthy, overall, it's been pretty good. That being said, he is older now, so that is a question. But 17 games in 2022, 17 games in 2021, 14 games in 2020, 16 games, 16 games, 16 games, 14 games. So he has rarely missed games in his career. Just last year was really the season where he missed games. And I remember he was even talking about he wanted to come back earlier than the Patriots were willing to let him, because the Patriots were so bad last year. They didn't really let him come back to play. So that was kind of part of the problem. If they add Justin Simmons, that would be pretty crazy. On top of that, that would obviously be wild. But again, that would be in line with what you would have expected from the Falcons. I've been heavily critical of the Falcons front office because I honestly don't feel like they've done a great job in recent years. But also on top of that, I feel like you've got to sort of have a vision of what you're going for and like what you're pushing. Like when, for example, when the Bucs had Tom Brady, they weren't drafting a first round pick quarterback. They were drafting Tristan Wirfs, right? They in the second round, they were filling an immediate need for Antoine Winfield Jr., right? They were bringing in anybody Tom Brady wanted, right? They were bringing in Antonio Brown, despite the issues there. They were bringing in Rob Gronkowski, right? They were bringing in these players that Leonard Fournette, that Brady wanted on the team. Like, to me, when you have a veteran quarterback who's rather going to make this thing happen now or not, you've got to try to like go for it. And I just feel like the Falcons have been a little bit too conservative, but this move kind of, does change that, right? So 3rd round pick in 2025, in case anybody hasn't seen the news, Matthew Judon traded to the Falcons, 3rd round pick in 2025. I would say that that's honestly pretty solid value for the Patriots. I wouldn't say that's like too much or too little. That's pretty fair to me, honestly. A 3rd round pick next year's draft. That helps the Patriots rebuild and retool their team. And honestly, I feel like the Patriots, like I said, like their edge rush rotation is already solid. All those players are young, so you're not really worried about that. Maybe you get more snaps out of these young players that are going to help you down the line, like Keon White, right? So you can really see what you have in Keon White. If Judon's there, it's hard to really see what Keon White's going to be in this defense, right? But then also, you can use that 3rd round pick on another offensive lineman to protect Drake May. Because at the end of the day, if Drake May is good, none of this stuff even matters. So like, and you're just trying to help Drake May at the end of the day. Pat says people can say what they want about the Pats. The fact is, no team gets mentioned in a Super Bowl like the New England Patriots. That's true. If the Falcons sign Judon to a deal, Reddick is a loser to an extent, seeing him get a new deal after getting traded. Yeah, that's fair. I guess you could throw Hassan Reddick in there as another veteran pass rusher with kind of a similar track record to Matt Judon. I would say, like, at his best, Judon is a better player than Hassan Reddick, in my opinion. I think Judon has very few flaws in his game. I think that he has a good overall run defense ability. He's bigger. He's got more length. He's got more power and size than somebody like Hassan Reddick. I think the thing that scares Reddick off from certain teams and schemes is his size. He's only like 6'1" or something like that. Judon is 6'3", 270. He's like for the Patriots, he was like Willie McGinnis type of player, like huge edge rusher, right? But also athletic. So AJ Jones, is it Al Jones? Al Jones, sorry. This regime continues to disappoint, sitting on all this cap space, doing nothing with it. lock in that under 4.5 bets right now. So I assume you're talking about the Patriots. I mean, yeah, but I think the Patriots front office is taking it slow. I think that they're willing to take their time. I think they understand that 2024 is a building block season, and they're not going to be willing to rush anything. And this cap just turns over into next year. So to me, like, I feel like they should have been more aggressive at the onset of free agency and tried to do more to like help the offensive line, help the receiving core, go out there and splash on players. But at the same time, like, they have tried. Like, they tried with Brandon Ayuk. There's really nothing they could have done better with Brandon Ayuk. They tried with Calvin Ridley for the most part. It's just Calvin Ridley wanted to go to Tennessee and not New England. So at this point, it's just the way that New England has been categorized as a team and an environment that people just don't want to play there right now. It's just kind of an awkward setting. So I feel like as soon as Drake May goes out there and proves that he's a baller, which I think he is, then I think that's going to change the narrative surrounding the Patriots. Because I think instantly people will be like, well, if they had a left tackle and another receiver, this team would be pretty darn good because they've got a defense, they've got a young coach, they've got a young quarterback. That's pretty promising. So, they have enough pieces there where this year in 2024, all you're really looking for is how are the young players on defense performing? Christian Gonzalez, right? Keon White, as I mentioned, the guys that we already know about, Kyle Duggar, who signed an extension, like, how are these guys performing? And then can they find a couple pieces to the O-line and the receiving core? Like, is Pop Douglas breaking out? Is Jalen Polk breaking out? Is Javon Baker breaking out? Right? Overtime Jay says people keep talking about cap space. We're in a rebuild, wasted $200 million and didn't play out good. No reason to overplay mid players. That's true. I think that's a good counterpoint. In 2021, they spent a ton of money on players like Jonnu Smith and Nelson Aguilar, players that were starters in the NFL, but nothing too special, right? And Belichick wanted to make something happen with that team. And it did pay off in 2021. They were a playoff team in Mac Jones' first season. I think you've got to be wise with your additions. I think you can never overpay a blue chip player. If they would have went out and they paid Christian Wilkins the entire bank account, I would have been fine with that because Christian Wilkins is an absolute stud. If they would have gone out there and signed Brandon Ayuk, traded for Brandon Ayuk, that's a 26-year-old top 10 wide receiver in the NFL that can run after catch, run routes at a high level, separate at a high level. He can do everything. So if you're going to overpay a blue chip player, that's perfectly fine with me. The problem is when you overpay some replacement level linebacker or some replacement level tight end or something to that degree, right? Judon actually paid off. He was a great signing for the team. Now, it didn't ultimately add up to anything other than one playoff appearance, but he was a great signing by Belichick. He was probably the best signing he's had in years, to be honest with you. And that's the type of signing that if Brady would have had that during his tenure, more of those, that would have been pretty nice, right? Like the equivalent to the Judon signing at the time was like Adalius Thomas, and that didn't work out like at all. So, yeah. Yeah, what do you guys, if you guys have any questions, let me know. I'm just going to scroll through this chat, see if anybody said anything that I think is pretty interesting. Pats will decline just a bit, but with Gonzalez, Duggar, Wise, Bentley, Tavai, Keon White, Pats are going to be just fine on defense. I definitely think they're going to be good on defense. I just feel like without Judon and potentially Barmore for the entire year, that's definitely going to hurt. I mean, those are two players that you would rank inside your top 20 at both positions. So winner is the GM. He caught hell by not picking a defensive player in the draft. Absolutely. I agree with that. The Falcons general manager is a big winner after taking a lot of heat for what he did in the draft. And rightfully so. I thought the draft was an absolute disaster, but this definitely makes it look a lot better. And I think overall, this is a win for the Falcons culture. Like, if you guys know Judon at all, like have ever watched him play or like seen an interview with him, he is an incredible add to the locker room as well. Even if he doesn't come out there in Atlanta, and let's say he puts up 7 or 8 sacks instead of 12.5, you guys are going to really like him because he's he's a really good leader of a team. Even in the preseason game, when he didn't have certainty with his contract, like this last preseason game New England played, he was like coaching up players, like helping up the younger guys, boosting their confidence, like teaching them things. So yeah, he's a great addition to any team, period. Did he sign? I don't think so. I haven't seen anything that indicates he signed. I'm going to check Twitter just in case I missed it, but I don't think he's signed yet. Doesn't look like it. And I will say, several teams were interested in Matt Judon. This according to Jordan Schultz, by the way. He says several teams were interested in Matthew Judon, but it ultimately came down to the Bears and the Falcons. So the Bears were also interested, which probably increased this trade from like a 4th to a 3rd round pick. Yes, sir. Dirty Bird Digest. I like the name, by the way. Judon, Grady, David Onyemata is going to be hell for opposing teams. Win for Jesse Bates. Turnovers. Let's just check this Falcons. I kind of went over their depth chart a little bit earlier, but just checking out their team. Ultimately, it all comes down to Kirk Cousins. Like, how good is Kirk Cousins coming off the Achilles? But they've got the offensive line to protect him. They've got the running back to keep the pressure off of him. They've got a couple targets to work with. I wouldn't mind them adding another receiver to this mix if there's a veteran out there that they could add. Like Ray McLeod as the number 3 doesn't exactly like scream like a phenomenal number 3 receiver. So maybe there's somebody out there they could add. But yeah, Onyemata, Grady Jarrett, Eddie Goldman is still there, I believe. Those are all veteran names that are solid on the inside. Zach Harrison is there. Lorenzo Carter, they already updated on our lads to check it out. Matthew Judon, Lorenzo Carter, and Ebiketie. Those are the 3 guys. You got D'Angelo Malone, who was a 3rd round pick in 2022. He's more of a pass rusher type. But yeah, like without Judon, this was pretty bare. Caden Ellis, Troy Anderson, Nate Landman, I would say is like one of the more underrated linebacking trios or linebacking depth charts in the league. A lot of people don't know who these guys are. I like Caden Ellis a lot. I think Nate Landman had a really solid season last year, but it will be interesting to see how they're used in this defense as compared to Nielsen's defense, which there's some differences there. Right now, though, I think the biggest problem with this team is the secondary. Like, I like Jesse Bates. I love Jesse Bates. He's phenomenal. I like AJ Terrell a lot. He's a number 1 corner, but D. Alford and Mike Hughes, that's not the best cornerback depth chart in the league. They did sign Antonio Hamilton from Arizona, who's okay, but like they've got Kevin King in the mix. Like, could they sign what if they could sign like Steph Gilmore or Howard or something? There's still some corners out there. I like Richie Grant. Maybe people don't like him. I don't know. I kind of like Richie Grant a little bit, but I don't know what the Falcons fans think of your safeties. Malik Edwards says, what about Justin Simmons? I think it could happen. It could happen. I don't know exactly if it will happen. Did he already visit there? He visited the Saints. I remember that. R. Whitting says, love this for the Falcons. Juju? Oh, geez. Bro, you don't want Juju. Trust me. He's terrible. He is terrible. He can't run. I would say, though, Simmons would definitely help them. There's no question about that. Juju's terrible, guys. You don't want Juju. Trust me. Let me check the wide receiver free agents. They're an available list. Okay. Renfro, Michael Thomas. Those are the biggest names. Juju, obviously, is a big name. Randall Cobb, Marquise Goodwin, older guys. There's not a lot out there right now. I would say if I were to sign one, Hunter Renfro would be kind of interesting in the slot. Just a slot-specific receiver for Kirk Cousins. Julio? That would be pretty fun. If I was to sign one of those guys, it would probably be Renfro. But that's it. I'm going to end it here. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, don't forget to follow me on the BR app for more live streams just like this, covering live news on Bleacher Report all the time. And you can subscribe on YouTube at The Bottom Line View. I cover all 32 NFL teams, including the Pats and the Falcons. So I'll see you over there. Thank you guys for watching. It's Mitch. Peace.